Good day to everyone, and welcome to Can-Am's 2021 Annual User Conference session on Understanding WIP versus Cash-Based Reporting. Let's review a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees will be muted during the presentation, and we also recommend that you turn off web cameras to cut down on background noise or distractions. This session will be recorded and made available to all attendees. With our full agenda today, there will not be a Q&A at the end of this session, but email any questions you have to our support team at support@canamsys.com, and myself or one of our other trainers will be pleased to respond to your questions. Can-Am Systems understands that restoration contractors have unique needs which require accounting for expenses and income throughout the life of a job instead of only one time when the job has been completed. In fact, knowing whether a job is profitable before it is complete is a valuable and essential component of every successful restoration company. PSA software is designed specifically to address this need. In this session, I will review the functionality available in PSA to provide accurate work-in-process financials or cash-based job financials, depending on your requirements. In our agenda, we will provide an overview of the WIP process, which includes three methods: the PSA standard WIP process, which involves WIP calculation of earned revenue throughout the life of a job. We'll also take a look at the PSA completed job work-in-process, which keeps all jobs, costs, and revenues in balance sheet accounts until the job is completed and paid, and there would be no WIP calculation. We'll look at the PSA manual close cash-based WIP process, where job costs and revenues can be transferred over to your income statement throughout the life of the job until you would manually close it. I will go over several PSA reports that are key for the work-in-process, as well as a peek at our new cash basis financial report that is being developed. An overview of the key processes in the standard WIP process is as follows. Of the job costs that are recorded in PSA post to a work-in-progress job account, which is an asset balance sheet account, as you can see over to the right, account number 11410. And as sales invoices are recorded in PSA and posted, those revenues will be posted to the deferred revenue asset balance sheet account. A WIP calculator is used with our standard WIP process, and typically the WIP calculator can be run on a weekly basis, and it calculates the anticipated or earned revenues throughout the life of a job. The components used in the WIP calculation are the job's expected gross or revenue margin percent, the actual costs incurred, and the estimated revenue, which is the ceiling or the maximum revenue which can be calculated. After the WIP calculator is ran for a job, it will automatically create a journal entry for each job, which will transfer all of the work-in-process job costs from the balance sheet to the appropriate cost of sale account, and the earned revenue portion that's calculated will post from the balance sheet over to the appropriate job type into the revenue account. The last process in the WIP, which is run at month end, is to close out completed jobs and to finalize your WIP for month end. First part of that would be to select the jobs that are eligible to be closed, and PSA will generate the adjusting journal entry required for any differences that might exist between the calculated revenue to date and the actual invoices that were issued to the customer. The active job listing WIP report is one of the key reports to review job progress. It ensures WIP is balanced, and it provides the accounting department the data to ensure estimated revenues and costs are logical. We will focus in on one job for Minnie Johnson for our session today. We'll be following through the full standard WIP process, and we're reviewing this report as of the end of February. We can see Minnie's job started on February the 15th, and it's estimated at $3,500. 25% margin is set for the job, and the estimated costs have been calculated at $2,450. To date, we've had $420 of actual costs posted against the job. There's no invoices at this point issued for the job. After reviewing the active job listing report and making sure that all those entries were in order and posted, the WIP calculator is the next step. And as I mentioned, the WIP calculator is typically ran weekly, and the process will calculate the anticipated earned revenue from the job costs on Minnie's job using the job gross margin percent, and it will transfer all of the WIP job costs from the balance sheet accounts to the appropriate cost of sale account, as well as the calculated earned revenue. So this is the journal entry generated from the WIP calculator. The costs to date for the job are debited against the cost of sale account. The work in process job balance sheet account is cleared out, and the calculation of the revenue earned is posted against the revenue account here and cleared out of the deferred revenue account. Let's look at the active job listing report after we ran the WIP calculator so you can see how this report is updated. The costs that were in the GL cost here are now reflected that they have been transferred over. The amount of cost is cleared out of here because there's no longer any costs in the work in process account. And the calculation of the revenue is now reflected here. We're going to fast forward now to the end of March. This is the report of what's happened on this job between the end of February and March. At this time, Minnie Johnson's job has been completed, and the final invoice has been issued. You can see here the actual revenue. Looking at this report now, you can see that there have been some additional costs. So the total cost here includes the current costs that are sitting in the work in process account. You can see the previous WIP values from the February costs and calculated WIP revenue. The amount that is shown in the deferred revenue account here is a calculation, and it is basically the difference between the WIP revenue from February and the actual revenue invoiced in PSA. Our profit margin for the job is showing at 33%. Job was produced better than the 25% estimated margin. Let's look at the active job listing report again for Minnie's completed job after the WIP calculator has ran. The deferred revenue balance is the difference remaining to transfer to the income statement. All the job costs have been transferred, and the gross margin again is showing us at 33%. A couple of comments on that margin value. If it is quite a bit higher than the expected margin, then it might be too good to be true. And it is possible you're missing a job cost. If it is known at the beginning of the job that the job will earn a higher margin, or in some cases, maybe it will be less than the standard default margin, then that would be a good idea to set that on the job so that throughout the life of the job, the WIP calculator will generate accurate revenues, giving you less variations in the income when that job is finalized. The last step in processing WIP is at month end and is called WIP revenue. At month end, we want to identify all the jobs which are ready to close and make the final adjustments on them, reconciling the difference between PSA's anticipated revenue calculation and actual invoices issued to your customer. This WIP revenue process would only be processed on a job once. This report we are looking at here can be generated from the WIP revenue screen, and it provides the information required to determine the jobs that are ready to close. It includes the completed date, the production close date, the last date an expense was posted to the job, the last invoice date, and if it is paid. Some companies opt to not close a job until it is fully paid, but others close the job, so it is excluded from the open active job listings if the collections are handled by the accounting staff. After Minnie Johnson's job is selected for the WIP revenue process for March 31st month end, this is the one adjusting entry that would be generated to reconcile to the actual revenue. So this concludes the PSA standard WIP process overview. PSA does provide optional methods to configure your software for handling WIP, and I will go over those now. The second WIP processing method available in PSA is the completed job method WIP with auto close. Similarly, all the job costs recorded in PSA will post to the WIP job costs asset balance sheet account. All the job sales invoices will record and post to the deferred revenue balance sheet asset account as well. There is no WIP calculator. All the job financials will stay in the balance sheet accounts for this process until the job is completely finished. The completed and paid jobs then selected within that WIP revenue process will move both the invoicing and the costs at that time to your profit and loss statement. And the job will close automatically at the end of that process. The third WIP processing method available in PSA is the completed job method, manual close, or cash WIP process. Similarly, all job costs recorded in PSA will post to the WIP job costs balance sheet accounts. All the sales invoices recorded will post to the deferred revenue balance sheet asset account. No WIP calculator runs. The job financials, both costs and revenues, will flow through to the profit and loss statement in the same period for these jobs. And that happens from the WIP revenue process, and it can be run as many times as required for the job to transfer those costs and revenues over, and it stays open until the job is completed and paid and then manually closed. PSA has several great reports for you as you work through the WIP process, as well as a great financial analysis dashboard. Let's look at this dashboard first. By setting the date here at the top, you can view your profit and loss financial income statement summary. As you can see here, month to date and year to date. Over on the left, we can view a couple of key work in process accounts here highlighted in red, along with the other key balance sheet accounts. These two WIP balance sheet accounts, one is the deferred revenue balance, and the other is the work in process. The WIP account is the value of job costs for this date that have not been transferred over to the profit and loss statement. But as we have completed the WIP for March 31st, this amount is showing as 0, which is exactly what it should be because the WIP is completely done for March. It's also a great tool for showing your totals for the specific days of deposits and costs posted, and a great little overview of your accounts receivable and accounts payable at the bottom. This can also be printed. Let's take a look at our first report that I want to show you today. The anticipated revenues exceeding estimates report is definitely a report which you should be looking at a couple of times a week if you're using the full PSA standard WIP with the WIP calculator. This report identifies the jobs that will not make the financial target. Any job on this list should be analyzed for the following. Is the estimated revenue correct? Are there missing upsales or change orders? Is the gross margin percent realistic? If the plan was to achieve 30% and there was a major change in scope or incorrect assumptions made that will prevent that, I prefer that you maybe leave that alone. However, some companies may wish to reduce it on the job. When you change one of these inputs, like adding a change order, moving a job cost, or reducing the gross margin percent, the next time the WIP calculator is processed, the job recalculates back to the first cost on the job and records whatever adjustment is necessary to meet the math calculation on the date that you run the WIP calculator. This report is found in PSA Desktop, but the same report is available in Proven Job Management in the web within the Smart Reporting add-on module. And it is called there the Red Flag Report. The Smart Reporting available in the web has the ability to set up any of its reports to automatically be emailed according to the schedule defined. So just think, you could set up this report to be emailed out to your estimators or project managers on a weekly basis to ensure they are keeping their jobs on track. This is the actual cost WIP by job for a period report. This lists the jobs with the changes that have happened to your income statement. On the far right-hand side, the two columns, we have the achieved profit margin and the default from the job. Any jobs that are showing on here with big differences should be analyzed, and this report gives you a nice breakdown of the different costs that are on the job at this point. The completed job reports can be generated from a variety of job dates, filters by employees assigned to the job types, or locations. It is a report that is available in the desktop as well as available from Proven Job Management in the web. The last, but definitely not the least, I would like to show you this report, which is the long-awaited new cash basis reporting tool. It will be available soon. This is the setup screen, which provides the ability to set up the parameters for a report date. On the screen, the mapping can be defined for the offset accounts, for the main accounts receivable, accounts payable, and the deferred revenue accounts. Additionally, ability is provided to map any other accounts to an offset. No journal entries are generated when running these reports. WIP processing must be completed for the date and balanced as of the date chosen. After the setup is complete, you will select which reports you wish to generate from the options of a trial balance, a balance sheet, or an income statement, and click Print. If you are not on our list to receive this new report when it's available in your PSA software, please email into our support team to be added to the list. To recap our session, we have reviewed over the WIP processes available in PSA, which included the full standard WIP process, which included the WIP calculator, the completed job WIP process, where no job financials transferred to the P&L statement until the job was completed. And we also looked at the cash work in process, where all jobs, costs, and revenues transferred to the financial statements in the period in which the transactions occurred. We also looked at several key PSA reports relating to WIP. Thank you so very much for joining our session today. If anyone would like to arrange training or ask questions on the PSA WIP features, please contact our support team at our phone number listed here or email support@canamsys.com for this to be scheduled. I wish all of you a great afternoon and enjoy the rest of our virtual conference.